For me, the best way, the only way to really know Afghanistan is to drive there through the rugged hills of the Khyber Pass. It's a hugely critical route, but it's also a very dangerous route, you know, because the government really has very little control, if any. I'm Kathy Gannon, and I've been a journalist for most of my adult life. Now, though, I'm wondering, with NATO, America, and the West investing so much in Afghanistan, could this be a time of hope for the Afghan people? Just before the border, we passed through Pakistan's tribal lands. Now this is wild country. You know, when you look around and how much has changed? Absolutely nothing, you know? I mean, even if the reason we have our guard is because if we go off 10 feet this way, 10 feet that way, it's tribal lands. You know, you just cannot get off the road. You know, if somebody decides to kidnap you, you're finished. It was 1986 when I first crossed the Khyber Pass. I'd come then as a journalist to see the world. I didn't know that I'd be coming back again and again and again. The border between Pakistan and Afghanistan, it's not just two countries, but two worlds. I'm always going to work, of course, to write about some tragedy or threat in Afghanistan. But this has always been a personal journey for me. Pretty much alone, unembedded, unofficial. In the no man's land between countries, it all comes back. How special Afghans are. Such warm, friendly, and hospitable people. And there's no one more special to me than Amr Shah.
Fine. Road was very long.
Yeah. It was long?
Yeah, nearly 4 o'clock we get up.
I met him in the 1990s during Afghanistan's civil war. I've stayed in his home with his wife and their 8 kids. I just love this man.
10 hours, but now it's short.
Hey, oh my God! Hey, you are a saint. You are such a saint. I can't tell you. And where did you park the car? Is it?
Car is here. We brought that.
Flying coach?
Yeah, flying coach is there.
Okay, great. And what we'll do is we'll just bring it over and we'll put it over to maybe.
Go to bring the luggage.
Look at the traffic. Holy Lord, lifting. Hey, my goodness. So, Amr Shah, how are you doing?
Fine.
How's the family?
Family okay, thank you.
Everybody's good?
Everybody's
Nice.
Every adventure that Amr Shah and I have had in Afghanistan begins with this drive from the border.
Last year and this summer, spring.
It used to be such a horrible road. Travelers took their lives in their hands, not least because the war was all around them. In the 1980s, Soviet soldiers fought pitched battles around here, state-of-the-art weapons versus tribesmen with rifles. They were called Mujahideen, but their bitter infighting when they took power claimed 50,000 lives. And then came the Taliban. These days, everybody thinks they were the ultimate evil. But when they first started winning battles in the 1990s, Afghans and the West welcomed them. They brought security, law and order, as ex-Taliban officials will tell you, even today.
This was by the benefit of Afghanistan. In the time when the Taliban brought security to Afghanistan, they kept Afghanistan from dividing, and they disarmed the people, and they made government, if it was strong or not. This was important for Afghanistan.
But brutality in Taliban-ruled Kabul, especially towards women, forced the regime into international isolation. The West stopped aid money, and the Taliban grew increasingly close to al-Qaeda and Osama bin Laden. Taliban means students in Arabic, and it was here in the Muslim schools, the madrasas, that the Taliban began. For years, the sermons here have been about the enemies of Islam. Soviet communism in the 1980s, the Mujahideen civil war in the 1990s, and now that the US and its allies have toppled the Taliban, it's us. NATO, America, Canada, Germany.
नेटो अफवाज का वो काम नहीं है जो अमेरिका खुद चाहता है, तो जब चाहता है वो नेटो अफवाज के ज़रिए बमबारी कराता है। अब यहाँ उस नेटो के अफवाज को क्या पड़ी थी कि पाकिस्तान में भी अंदर दाखिल हो गया पिछले हफ्ते में एक दीनी मदरसे के पर बमबारी की। इसी तरह वो अफ़गानिस्तान में मुसलसल अवाम पर बम बरसा रहे हैं। कोई ताल्लुक़ नहीं है नेटो का उस मुल्क के डेवलपमेंट से, उसके मसाइल को मुस्तहकम करने से। तालिबान के पास कौन सा जहाज़ है, कौन से रॉकेट हैं कि वो उन पर बमबारी करते हैं। किसी शहर में मालूम हो जाता है कि यहाँ तालिबान है, वो अगर बमबारी करते हैं और बेचारे निहत्ते बच्चे, औरतें, आम आवाम मरते हैं, फिर ये नंबर बनाने के लिए ऐलान करते हैं कि आज 100 तालिबान को हमने।
British, American, Mr. John. But today is also.
The international community poured money into Afghanistan after 2001.
But it is good for Afghanistan to build Afghanistan. Fortunately, after 3 decades at least, we can see a lot of change in the country. See this road.
It was amazing. And remember, you used to, I mean, it was like literally.
As well as roads, they built schools, dug wells, and set up health clinics. Normal life seemed to return. The end of Taliban rule brought peace, at least at first. Afghans were hopeful that their 30-year ordeal seemed to be over. Women, we heard, were the big success story. From confinement in their homes under the Taliban back to schools and offices, they were supposed to throw off the burqa and join society. It's more complicated than that. There are no more laws that keep women at home, but many families still follow strict codes. Here in Bamiyan, in central Afghanistan, I met a remarkable woman who's working to change that.
البته ما شون این مشکل یک طرح داشتم در خود بامیان آگاهی جندر بود که ما ملاها را جمع کردیم ملاهای مرکز بامیانه و یک ترینر از خود ملاها گرفتیم میخواستیم که برای ملاها اونا هم گپ ما رو میزنن ما هم گپ از اونا رو ولی اونا فکر میکنن که جندر یا نقش گرفتن زنا یک چیزی که خارجی آوردن بر ما در صورتی که 1400 سال پیش دین مقدس اسلام گپ داشت حضرت خدیجه خودش یک تجارت پیشه بود.
Do you think of yourself as a feminist?
میگه خودت یک پدیده هستی در ذاتش.
بله.
Yes.
Bamiyan is one of the most beautiful, and these days, peaceful places in the country. It's a long, torturous drive over mountain roads and icy passes from Kabul. But it's worth it, just for the sight of those green valleys and lovely villages. You get a real sense of Afghanistan's ancient culture. Pre-Islamic past, full of memories of Genghis Khan and the Mongols, Alexander the Great, and the days of the Buddha.
Wow, it's so incredible. Can't believe they did this.
In these caves, deep in the sandstone hills above Bamiyan, a shocking look into an infamous moment in Afghanistan's recent history.
Yeah. Park yourself in. Be careful.
No problem.
Yeah, what is beautiful.
Well, I mean, they're trying to save it.
Is
Okay,
it
is this
working?
the head of the Buddha?
Yeah, this head Buddha. This is head Buddha.
here
This
we-
way,
let
and
me-
it's
The caves are a part of a monastery gouged from living rock by Buddhist monks 1,500 years ago. It was a wonder of the ancient world. But in the 1990s, they were used to store ammunition and eventually to plant the explosives that blew up the Bamiyan Buddhas. International horror with the Taliban intensified after the destruction of the archaeological treasures. A regime that could brutally erase its country's history seemed capable of anything. Now, though, German archaeologists are leading a project to gather all the remaining bits of the Bamiyan Buddhas.
This is pieces bomb. It's Kamir Talib inside there.
You can still see the effects of war, but things are improving. You can't change history, but you can transform despair to hope with a little international cooperation. This was taken out of the rock from the Buddhas when they collected. Wow. And what's in this here? This is just... Bamiyan is a peaceful place, largely because it's so isolated. The road to the rest of the country is terrible, just like all other roads in Afghanistan used to be before the international community needed them to move their troops and aid workers around. All along the way, you pass reminders of this country's ordeals. But one thing that hasn't changed is how welcoming and friendly people can be. You pull into a completely isolated village, and the next thing you know, you're having a meal and talking politics. These days, that means complaining about the government and NATO.
What kind of help do you need?
چی نوع کمک ضرورت داره؟
کار داره کامل شما در سرک آمدید؟ این سرک است. شفاخانه نیست یک مریض از یک تا کابل میمره. فرض مثال یک زنی که طفل داشته باشه. کوبر طفلش دیگه نمیشه در موتور تا میپرتش در اون میگم.
So what do you think? How come you haven't received any assistance? I mean, you know, because the international community has spent a lot of money in Afghanistan. Why haven't you received any?
مگر دنیا خب پیسه در این وطنتان مصرف کرد چی شد؟
والا اگه در پورتمانو بچور نیست در کابل ما چرا از این تخت سماوات برو در گل پورتمان جور نمیتونم.
Yeah, it just seems the same thing every time whenever we stop in any village or any place along the way. You know, when we were traveling in Jalalabad, Pune, down in the south, everybody says the same thing. Nothing has changed. It's sad. At the heart of Afghanistan is Kabul. After 30 years of war, so much has changed here, especially since 2001. Then there were 500,000 people. Now there's closer to 3 million. And it's just a patchwork. Bombed out streets next to millionaires' mansions. In many cases, corrupt people's homes. Slums with no water alongside constant reminders of war. Kabul is awash with money. There's a property boom. Cell phones are everywhere. But most of the 3 million people can't afford any of it. Prices are rising. It's no place to be poor. The civil war is a distant memory today. So is the Taliban rule. But Afghans expected more, and they tell you they're shocked at the level of violence and corruption in their country today. No one in power seems to care. You hear that over and over again. No one understands this better than Amr Shah and his family. They've lived through their country's hell. Children born, raised, their father every day risking his life to report on war and disaster. To watch them grow, even prosper, has encouraged me. But fear and violence are never far away.
If you believe me, before I didn't know the suicide attack word in English, what they say, suicide attack. But today they have gone killing themselves. They are cutting the head of the doctors, engineers. All this is making disappointed. When US come, the thousand refugees come from Iran and Pakistan says, thanks God, after 3 decades, I'm sure today is peace. But after 1 year, see, Afghanistan still is burning.
My friend Janula is an ex-Mujahideen fighter. Now he's a journalist like me. But back then, he met Osama bin Laden here at an al-Qaeda house near Jalalabad, between Kabul and the Pakistan border. It's a ruin now. American bombing in 2001 destroyed the entire compound. But bin Laden wasn't there. And as everyone knows, he is apparently still on the run.
So one day they invite us here to come, and he want to talk with the media. Then like a journalist, I also come here because I know Arabic. And he was so happy that I know directly Arabic with, to
What's
talk
shocking is who actually brought bin Laden to Afghanistan in the first place. Many of them are part of the Afghan government today.
To get a person that the people who they have aligned with today are the ones who actually brought Osama to Afghanistan, not the Taliban at all. Instead, it's the very people that the Americans turn to hunt Osama. They're the ones who actually brought Osama.
Yeah, I think people is a little sad with the Americans because the guy who brought the Osama, they sat in the parliament. And there's the kind of the people they was not involved in this case, they punish.
Yeah.
This is the problem,
Yeah.
So we say, somebody lose his way.
Okay, we're entering the gorge now, coming in. It's one of the most beautiful parts of the road, but it's also one of the most dangerous parts of the road. Traveling around Afghanistan, I kept hearing the same complaints. The warlords were back and sitting in parliament.
Yeah, to go to.
Corruption was getting worse. Security, too, as Taliban and bandit attacks spread across the country. Even the police aren't safe, as I discovered in the Silk Gorge east of Kabul. So, Commander, could you show me where the bullets? See? Could you just show me where? Oh my goodness. And where, here and where else? Oh, and under your chin. Oh my goodness. What about your salary? Do you get much money as a policeman? Do you get enough money as a policeman?
3000 افغانی است معاش ما د 3000 افغانی هیچ چیزی نمیشه هیچ مشکل کسی دیگه رفت نمیشه بازار کدام از 3 بچه و 4 بچه 5 بچه خودار افغان مردم افغانستان وی داره عجیب زیاد هم است.
You know, a lot of people also say, when Afghans talk, they also say there's a lot of corruption in the police, among the police themselves. They stop, they take money from people.
ما ایره میگیم که ما خودیم پلیس منصب پلیس هستیم از ما که وزارت بریم از من پول بگیره خودی تقبار که از من پول میگیره.
Oh my gosh. He says I'm the police officer. When I go to Interior Ministry, the high official, they are taking money from myself even. See, the corruption is so high.
It's pretty clear to ordinary Afghans that things are getting worse, not better. Since the Taliban were toppled, what's gone wrong? To get the answer, I went to the United Nations compound in Kabul.
Afghans were always going to have to deal with a very complicated legacy from 30 years of war. Even if you put these top commanders aside, there are people in every community who belong to Mujahideen groups who collaborated with the Taliban and did awful crimes. Our welcome in this country is not infinite, it's not unlimited. We have to show that progress is being made, including on security, and that's hard to show when the insurgency is getting more intense as it is this year. that means we need to talk seriously about what a successful counterinsurgency strategy will look like, and literally strengthen our ability to promote and protect civilians in armed conflict.
The man who personifies Afghanistan in the world now, President Hamid Karzai. He was supposed to lead Afghans into a peaceful, prosperous future. He hasn't been able to do that. And in his highly secure palace in Kabul, he's increasingly frustrated.
This time with the help of the international community. It did bring to Afghanistan a lot of newfound happiness, return of boys and girls to school, a better economy, a reconstruction on a fairly large scale. But the most important thing that we are still seeking so much with such a great desire and with pain in our hearts is to bring better security to Afghan lives. That unfortunately is not the case in parts of the country. So that troubles me a lot. It pains me a lot.
Let's get some support up here. RPG!
Needless to say, it should trouble NATO and the international community too. With insurgency getting worse in southern Afghanistan, the Afghan army or police haven't been well trained and can't cope on their own. And as fighting rages, development and reconstruction stalls. No matter where you are in this country, in the cities or in the incredibly beautiful countryside, the formula is the same. If you want to make friends with Afghans, you have to listen to the voice of the Afghan village, the bazaar, the tribal council. It's a lesson that the US and NATO troops simply have to learn. Here in the eastern province of Kunar, U.S. forces have allied themselves with Governor Haji Dieter, a former Mujahideen commander. His province is one of the toughest in Afghanistan, not far from where Osama bin Laden is believed to be hiding. To stay in power, he has to balance U.S. backing with deep local suspicion of the West.
ولایت کنر یک ولایت سرحدی است و ولایت بسیار کویی است که با دره‌ها و تقسیم شده و در اینجا زیاتر مردم کویی است و از تعلیم هم زیاترش نداره به سواد هستن اکثریت.
Haji Dieter doesn't venture from his fortified compound very often because it's just not safe out there. Suicide bombers and assassins have targeted Afghan officials like him many times in the past few years. A drive with his security team is an unnerving event. Back in Kabul's main military hospital, a cruel irony. Najib, an Afghan policeman who was trained by the West, was caught in a mistaken American airstrike on his post in 2006. He survived, but 4 of his colleagues died. All over Afghanistan, inaccurate targeting is claiming innocent lives as an insurgency intensifies and NATO and US forces reply with air power. What injuries did you have? What were your injuries?
4 نفر مرده و در پوستای که جنگ شده در کدام جایی که جنگ شده ما بین از یه وزی که جنگ شده 4 4 نفر مرده.
It's making Afghans increasingly angry. One thing the international community has done right is encourage Afghan human rights groups. They're active and vociferous, and along with the media, one of the few functioning institutions in Afghan life. They even campaign for the reconstruction of their cities and towns. In South Kabul, in the shadow of a palace blasted to ruins in the Civil War, I heard from Seema Samar, one of the bravest women in Afghanistan. Do you think that people feel that they are gaining some opportunities, or do you think that the opportunities have passed them by? They're not gaining from these?
I think the problem is that, of course, when we lose time, we lose opportunity with it. We might have opportunity in the future, but why we should lose this time that we already have, the opportunity that we already have? In fact, the interest of the international community in Afghanistan, I don't think it will stay forever.
Frankly, you know, it's been 6 years. There's been a lot of money given to Afghanistan. And the international community feels they have given quite a bit. Why aren't there more jobs? Why aren't more ordinary Afghans sort of feeling like, okay, things aren't great, but they're better? And
well, there's no doubt there are some better situation. I mean, one of the achievements with this administration is the freedom of speech and freedom of media, and the increase in the number of the media. And some other issues, like the children going to the school, although not all of them, but at least quite a big number of children going to school, all that, some other things. But I think it's not only the government of Afghanistan, it's the international community didn't really help the Afghan government to make a proper strategy.
Seema still needs armed guards everywhere that she goes. It's a measure of the insecurity all Afghans face, the dashed hopes of recent years, the growing fears that war and mayhem could come back. Here at the edge of Kabul is the anonymous graveyard where they bury suicide bombers to avoid publicity. You never had suicide bombings in Afghanistan before the foreign troops arrived here. How do you fight against an enemy like that? No one seems to know. All I can say is that foreign governments and militaries hugely underestimated the challenges of this country. And there's no real excuse for that. After everything they've been through, Afghans deserve peace, reconstruction, a future for their kids. They were promised that after September 11th as the bombs began to fall on their homeland. That promise, like so many others, hasn't been kept.